Welcome back to 31 for 31. You probably noticed that the theme today was a little different than it usually is, and that's because of the film that we have up for review in this video. Day 10 of 31 for 31 is Suspiria, Dario Argento's 1977 supernatural horror masterpiece. The music that you heard in the intro today is the main theme of Suspiria, written and performed by Goblin. They're an Italian progressive rock band that happen to be frequent collaborators of Argento's, and soundtracking Suspiria is arguably their largest claim to fame. Usually, I wouldn't go into specifics of something like soundtrack this early into the video, but the music of this film really is kind of a character of its own. I felt that you all needed to hear it in order to properly set the tone for the show today. As I briefly mentioned earlier, Suspiria is a 1977 supernatural horror film directed by Dario Argento and starring Jessica Harper as Susie Banyan, an American dance student who is traveled to study her craft in the prestigious dance academy located in Germany. The film is widely regarded as one of Argento's best and a trendsetter not just in the world of horror, but in the world of film at large. Argento used several unorthodox techniques to create the defining atmosphere and visual style of Suspiria, the most interesting of which was his choice to shoot the film in Technicolor, rather than on the more modern emulsion prints which were standard for the time period. The result of his decision is a film that is undoubtedly most renowned for its visual presentation. So much of Suspiria looks so fantastical and dreamlike while still appearing vivid and real because of Argento's use of framing and color. The set design and environments selected to set this movie in are just as essential as the soundtrack in creating Suspiria's atmosphere. Like the soundtrack, I would consider the dance school to be just as large of a character as any of the roles portrayed by the film's cast. The camera often lingers on these imposing, confusing, but ultimately visually enthralling structures and rooms. The interior of the dance academy seems ethereal, hellish, and completely unimaginable all at the same time. To think that at one point in time, a crew of people were inside of these structures shooting a movie is pretty much unfathomable to me because of how otherworldly the dance academy seems. Those qualities of Suspiria actually kind of remind me of the police station from the 1998 version of Resident Evil 2, which you can watch my full playthrough of here on the channel. The Raccoon City police station makes sense on the surface, but when you really observe it, it doesn't really seem like a police station at all, more like a living, breathing piece of artwork with sprawling rooms and uncanny choices in color. The Dance Academy in Suspiria takes all of those elements and blows them up 1,000-fold. The setting and presentation of this film really is spectacular. Beyond the surface, Suspiria is not overly forthright with any particular theme, and it's entirely possible that this was made not to depict any particular theme. I think when viewing things through the lens of modern film, it's easy to try to paint everything as being coded with some sort of message, but there are examples of horror whose only message is simply to show you something that's scary. Something I took note of is how few male characters there are in prominent roles within this thing. The most prominent male characters in Suspiria are light supporting roles and some red herring villains, and any other ones are simply extras. In fact, I would say that Suspiria is a movie about relationships between women at its core. Women in supportive roles, authoritative roles, and in nefarious roles are all depicted here, sometimes with a little bit of overlap as well. The kills in Suspiria are generally one of the other big talking points around the film, particularly because the nastiest of them happen within the first 15 or 20 minutes of its runtime. Most, if not all, of the deaths in Suspiria are sudden and shocking. Some of them are so sudden that it's easy to convince yourself that they're not real as they're happening on screen. It does use a myriad of different 1970s practical effects, but they occur sparingly and almost always pretty quickly. Suspiria does not linger in its depictions of violence at all. Instead, they're used as sudden disruptions to break up different sections of this film's true defining element, which is its atmosphere. The first kill, where they push the woman through the stained glass window, is pretty incredible though, even if it is somewhat brief in the way that it is edited. As a side note, editing in general is super wacky in this movie, and it might actually be one of the things that I like the least about it. Shots will just jump cut into a completely different scene with a different setting and different characters and a way different subplot. Another thing that really takes me out of the atmosphere is the overdubbed dialogue. As best as I can tell, this film was originally recorded in English, and I'd like to believe that there's a reason behind the overdubbing. You know, maybe the audio recorded on set simply wasn't usable, but it is incredibly distracting, and it will color my overall opinion of Suspiria, just like it did for Hellraiser last year. If you really enjoy visually interesting movies, you should definitely check out Dario Argento's Suspiria. The setup of the environments and the colors, combined with the incredible soundtrack provided by Goblin, make this a really freaky watch. Like a lot of 70s horror, it's working from a fairly light playbook and setting a lot of guidelines for what we now consider to be staples of the genre in the modern day. I would give Suspiria a solid 7.5 out of 10, with the stipulation that it is easily my favorite looking movie that I have covered on the show this year. Many of the shots in this film look like a painting, and I could easily see myself returning to Suspiria just to take a look at how well everything is presented to the eye. Next up on the list is The Autopsy of Jane Doe, another film that I've never seen before, and then, after that one, it'll be our next Splatter Day movie, the extremely heavily anticipated Terrifier 3. If you enjoyed this review, please leave a like or a comment down below, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. For now, though, that'll have to be it for today's entry of 31 for 31. Until next time.